Local government elections and pensions to order. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black, Henderson, Beck, Bratton, Berger, Crawford, Nicola, Nuremberg.
We have a quorum. Now, I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. I now move to bring before the committee Senate Joint Resolution 47. Do I have a second? I have a second. Senate Joint Resolution 47, we realize are part of the group that we listened to about initiative petition reform. I move that we adopt Senate Committee Substitute for Senate. I move that we adopt Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Joint Resolutions 47, 30, 10. Do I have a second? I have a second. Now, is there any discussion about this joint resolution? In front of you, committee, it's kind of a bulleted list. Talked about what ended up in the final product, and Senator Carter has agreed to take any questions if somebody wants to discuss any part of this before we look at due passing. Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Joint Resolution 47, 30, and 10. Is there any discussion? See none. I move that we do pass. Yep. All those in favor of the adopting the Senate Committee Substitute for SJR 47, 30, and 10 say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Carries. Now I move that we do pass Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Joint Resolution 47, 30, 10. Do I have a second? I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Beck,
No.
Bratton,
Aye.
Berger, Crawford, Nicola,
Aye.
Nuremberg. Or I'm sorry, 6.
By your vote of 6-1, you have due pass Senate Committee Substitute, Senate Joint Resolution 47, 30, and 10. Now I move to bring before the committee Senate Bill 357. Do I have a second? I have a second. Senate Bill 357, I want to remind the committee this is a bill dealing with the St. Louis police officers retirement system that I believe that's been around now for a couple of years at minimum. Is there any discussion or questions about that bill? Senator Schroer, I believe, presented that. Seeing none, I move that we do pass Senate Bill 357. Do I have a second? I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Beck, Bratton, Berger, Crawford, Nicola,
Aye.
Nuremberg.
By your vote of 7-0, you have due pass Senate Bill 357. I now would like to move to bring before the committee Senate Bill 514. Do I have a second? I have a second. Senate Bill 514 is a bill that I presented dealing with the loggers retirement system, and some of us that have touched the retirement for the last couple, 3 years know that this is primarily cleanup language, but other things were discussed. Is there any discussion about that before I offer an amendment? I have an amendment that should have been distributed ending in .025, and I move for its adoption. Do I have a second?
2S.
2S. Oh, my writing's not very good. .02S. And I have a second. This amendment deals, again, we've seen this language in other places. It touches sunshine requests and then retirement system, what information they can be provided. For those of us that sit on retirement boards, we understand that many of the investment groups that we use will not allow you to share their identifiable information about their investment strategy, and that's what we're trying to place in law here, and we've done this in other places. Is there any questions? Any discussion? Then all those in favor of adopting this amendment say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say aye. The amendment has been adopted. I move that we roll the amendment into a Senate committee sub, which includes amendment number 1. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. That motion carries. I now move that we do pass Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 514 as amended. Do I have a second? I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Bratton, Berger, Crawford, Nicola,
Aye.
Nuremberg.
By your vote of 7-0, you have do pass Senate Committee Substitute, Senate Bill 514. Now I know each one of you, I believe I talked to each one of you about bringing another bill up to be exact, and now I've handed it to somebody, and I can't remember the number. Matt, 478. I move that bring before the committee Senate Bill 478. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? 478, Senator Trent, real estate brokers and contract that we listened to before session. Seeing none, and I would like to, now let me get back to my script and I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I now move that we do pass Senate Bill 478. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Beck, Bratton, Berger, Crawford, Nicola,
Aye.
Nuremberg.
By your vote of 7-0, you have do pass Senate Bill 478. I move that we leave executive session and return to the open session. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. We are out of executive session. Okay, as we begin our hearing time, I want everybody to know that Senator Nicola got a hold of me, and he has a meeting here in a little bit, so I'm probably going to push him up a little bit in our agenda, okay? Yeah, it's 2:43, so Senator Nicola, you're ready to roll, okay? Please begin when you're ready, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a very simple bill. This is for my district in Jackson County. We have an appointed assessor, so this bill would require an elected assessor. I believe we're the only county in the state that does not have an elected assessor. So that's simply what this bill is, that we would have an elected assessor. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Is there any questions of Senator Nicola? I think we're all very aware of this conversation, correct? Thank you. Is there anyone here to testify in favor of this bill? Please come forward, state your name, and begin when you're ready, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's great to see everybody back after their spring break. Chris Schroer here on behalf of the City of Independence, which is located in Jackson County. We are very supportive of this legislation and appreciate the Senator bringing it forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions of the witness? Seeing none. Anyone else to testify in favor? Thank you, sir. One more. Please come forward, state your name. Looks like you got your little form. Ready? Thank you. Begin when you're ready.
Lisa Panett with Armorvine, and we're in support of the legislation.
Any questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Thank you, Senator Nicola. You'll make your meeting.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the next bill, we're going to go back to, I think, the list that was put out in front of the committee. So House Bill 1086, Representative Brown. Please begin when you're ready, sir. Do you have anybody in here testifying in favor or opposed on your bill before we start?
There's a few in the back, yes, sir.
Okay, please begin.
Thank you very much, to present 1086 to you today. For the record, Chris Brown, State Rep, District 16 out of Kansas City, the Northland of Kansas City. What House Bill 1086 is doing, it is updating and clarifying in statute the classification of a single-family home that is being used as a short-term rental to be classified only as residential property. And just so we're all on the same page in terms of short-term rentals, just very quickly, short-term rentals are like your VRBOs, Airbnbs, maybe it's a vacation condo in Branson, retirement home at the Lake of the Ozarks. Short-term rental property can be found in every corner of the state in both urban, suburban settings and in rural Missouri as well. For many Missourians, short-term rentals are part of a financial strategy that is used to help offset a mortgage payment on a vacation property or future retirement home. So why am I here today? What is the problem? Well, the problem is that a handful of assessors around the state of Missouri are switching, and most notably in Taney County, Branson, ton of short-term rentals down there. Anyway, they have started to change the assessment on short-term rentals from residential to commercial, which goes from a 19% assessment rate, residential, to a 32% assessment rate, commercial, which is a 68% increase in your tax assessment on that property. So in kind of investigating this a little bit, I called around and I talked to some county assessors, and what I found out is it's kind of like the wild, wild west out there right now, to be honest with you. My assessor in Clay County says he has absolutely no intention whatsoever of switching any assessments from residential to commercial. He felt like if this is something that would happen, it should originate with the Missouri Tax Commission, which it has not, and it should be statewide, which it is not. Another assessor I spoke to, where they are changing assessments in this particular county, I asked him, I said, well, what's your statutory authority on doing that? He didn't have an answer. Then I said, well, what's your criteria to figure out which properties you're going to change from residential to commercial? And basically his answer was, well, we look to see who has purchased the property. Was it purchased by maybe a trust or an LLC or some sort of corporate structure? Which is a little bit troubling to me, because I bet about half the people sitting in this room right now have an LLC or maybe a family trust. However, though, even if the property is a corporate purchase, it's how, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this, it's not how the LLC or the trust is using the property that should be the focus, but it's the activity that is taking place at the property. Sleeping, cooking meals, entertaining, residential type activities. What is not happening would be commercial type activities, such as signage out front saying, come in, we're open. They're not switching out the front yard with asphalt and orange stripes for a parking lot. They're not changing oil or working on transmissions in the garage or putting barber chairs in the basement and cutting hair 8 hours a day to the general public. These are residential homes in areas that are zoned residential, with people in these properties doing residential activities. And even if that home burns down, you can't replace it with a Quick Trip or a laundromat. You have to put right back in that spot a residential conforming property, not storefront. In conclusion, we have zoning ordinances for a reason. To change the assessment on a residential property is simply unfair and unsubstantiated. And I'm going to say one other thing too. I think we're on a slippery slope here with these county assessors. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from when an assessor is going to want to assess short-term rental as far as commercial to long-term rental. So I'm here to tell you there's not much of a difference between the two. Nevertheless, this is just another tax. It's a money grab, and it's levied on the backs of property owners. With that, I'll take questions.
Representative, I think you answered mine because I didn't want to do the research. Figured it out on my own. Repeat to me, if somebody that, the rentals that I'm associated with is farmland, not homes. So if I own homes instead of farms and rented those, how should I be assessed on those homes that I'm renting out? Long-term rental at this point is assessed how?
Residential.
Say it a couple more times.
Residential. Residential. All day long, residential.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Senator Bratton.
Thank you very much for this bill. I just wanted to tell you I appreciate you wanting to clarify this whole assessment situation. But it's not just residential. I think we need to really shore up the capability of what assessors and how they can reassess. Personally, we have an assessor that reassessed some family property of mine of agricultural land. We put up a pole barn literally 14 years ago, and then this year they decided to reassess about 80 acres from agriculture to residential of a pole barn that we put up to store equipment and to increase our assessments. And then you go and you try to go before the commission and all this stuff to try to alleviate that. And no one wants to work with you, and it's like pulling teeth because they've reassessed it because they're getting more money for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's egregious that people have to go and fight the system because an assessor that's been given this directive by taxing districts that they need more money, more money, more money. So they have this carte blanche authority to go and literally just reassess property how they feel and see fit. So my family is having to fight this battle currently, and we're being told to pound sand. And it's unfortunate that all these VRBOs that are, just like you said, they're all residential, that nothing has changed, and it's unfortunate that people are having to do this, and then we have to do this sort of legislation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Crawford.
I just have a technical question. If you have one of these properties, do they typically insure them as commercial properties? Do they have to have, do they have to have a commercial insurance policy to cover themselves since they are renting it out? Do you know?
You know, that's a great question. We do a lot of rental property, but we don't do short-term rentals. My guess is it's just residential. I'm sure somebody coming behind me.
I was just curious,
Yeah,
honestly.
I can't say exactly, but my guess is residential, but somebody will know, though.
Okay, all right.
Great
Hopefully
question.
they'll answer that when they come up. Thank you.
Senator Beck.
Thank you. So I have a question for you. You mentioned corporations. So corporations would be able to buy these properties and rent them out as Airbnbs, and
Right.
and you see no problem with that at all. And they can make profit off these things, and they'd still be considered single-family homes, even though the corporation themselves does not live in these homes,
Right.
and they just rent them out to strangers, like as in a hotel does, which pays higher rates, and motels pay higher rates. Correct?
Higher rates in terms of
Yeah.
assessment,
Yes,
taxation?
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
But-
true.
But again, it's not a hotel. It's a single-family home.
But you're also saying a corporation is not a family, and it's not a single family.
Well, again, not the use, the activity. A family is in that home.
But that's not what I'm asking you, Representative. I'm asking, this allows corporations to buy homes and strictly use them for the sole purpose of Airbnbs or whatever it is. And if they're doing it in Taney County, I'm sure that's what's happening here. A lot of corporations buy these properties.
Yeah.
They turn them into Airbnbs, and they circumvent a lot of different laws that they have to go through as far as, rental properties and some other things that happen with that, or with hotels and motel taxes and all those other things, correct?
Yeah, no, and they would still be able to do that.
Yeah, so that's the problem I have with the bill. It gives them a leg up, and now you're making it basically legal for them to do that. And I don't know if you'd be interested in an amendment to your bill, but the senator from the 11th and myself have some concerns about corporations, especially out-of-state corporations, buying properties up. And in a lot of cases, it used to be what we considered first-time home buyers' homes, starting, housing stock, and they're buying these and then are renting them out. And I think this would exacerbate that problem in different areas for different reasons. It now allows corporations. So I think you got to list it as property, but I think it depends on who owns it. I think if a corporation owns it, if it's not a family that owns it, I'm okay with the family, I guess, if they own it, for themselves, and they're going to do a retirement home like the things that you mentioned before. I'm probably sympathetic to those things. But when corporations come in just to buy properties and to build them and or build them or whatever the case may be, to rent them out to Airbnbs and then circumvent the other costs there, I don't have any sympathy for that.
Well, what about myself? I'm a corporation. I have an LLC. Could I buy a property and rent it out?
I guess you can, according to yours. I mean, anybody can do it, whatever they want here, right? I mean,
Yeah, but-
out-of-state corporations can do it and everything else. So, and we're probably not going to agree on this, but the Senator in the 11th and myself have had some other legislation that would kind of restrict some of these activities, and I think this puts it on steroids to a different extent, especially when we're not spelling out who owns these properties. If you want Joe Blow, who owns the house, to get that, then I'm fine with that. But now if you become an LLC or for the purpose of doing this, or you're an out-of-state corporation, I think there should be some restrictions to this, of how we let them buy our housing stock, and then you're giving them a tax break in the process.
Well, and I totally understand what you're saying. And so much of this argument does come back to the big corporation buying properties and then just simply renting them out. And I would say this, I don't have any numbers to back this up right here, sitting here right now, but I would say that the corporate renting out of properties, in particular the short-term rental stuff, is still the minority within the state. I would submit that most short-term rental properties are owned by people like yourself, people on this committee, and people back here that are buying property that maybe is going to be a future retirement home that they're going to rent out on a short-term basis to try to cover that mortgage, or it's just an investment vehicle for middle-class America. And again, I understand what you're saying about the corporate America, but it seems like everybody is corporate America now in terms of LLCs and trusts. So I guess we would have to establish some criteria on what is corporate America.
But you understand my
I know, I
my
understand
concern
your
here,
point,
'cause
yeah.
I think it opens up a door to be abused.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I guess I would also say is I'm unclear on what tax advantage are we giving here?
Well,
You-
you're saying that it's a residential home.
Yeah.
And clearly, it's not at that point. Clearly, if a corporation buys a house to make income off of it, it's no longer a residential home. It's no longer somebody living there to go to the schools and use the services and all these other things. Now you have a business that you're making a profit off of. Then you should pay for that privilege to have that business, even though it's in a residential area. In my mind, right? And I don't know what that looks like, but I think if we're giving breaks to corporations, instead of individuals, I like the premise of your bill on the individual aspect of it. I just don't. I think it can be abused on the other end is what I'm looking at.
Right, and I guess I would say is that I would have to respectfully disagree with your definition of that not being a residential home. That home, it is a residential home in a residential area, in a residential subdivision. That's exactly what it is. It's a residential home. Now, corporate entity over here has bought it as an asset.
To make profit
But,
off
well,
of it.
everybody buys a home to make profits. Nobody buys a home to lose money. So,
Well, but most people, a lot of people buy homes to just live in them. You know, the vast majority of people that I represent just live in the home, you know, and they have to rent or live in the house. That is what it is. It's not an asset that they're able to. I mean, I represent a lot of people that don't have the ability to be able to buy multiple homes, rent them out, or in this case, Airbnb, and to change that from being a rental to Airbnb or whatever the case may be. Because you specifically state 30 days or less, right? So I mean, there's some things here that, so this is short-term rental, which are way higher rates than renting a house out for a year or 2 years, or getting a lease to somebody, or buying a property. These are different things, what we're talking about.
so
This
then
is a
you would,
business.
So you would agree then a long-term rental property should be a commercial venture as well?
No, I did not say that. I did not say that. I said that rent, that's a different story. That's a different, it's a residential, it's long-term rentals, which the rates are way lower than if you do like an Airbnb for $3,000 for a week or $2,000 or whatever they're getting for these things, right? It's a different story. So anyway, we can talk offline on that, but I think this needs a little bit of work as far as that goes, corporation-wise.
Senator Berger.
Representative, in Taney County, when these were assessed at the 32%, did they go to the Board of Equalization to contest that, do you know?
Oh, I'm sure some did.
Did they win?
That I don't know, or Senator. I'm not
Okay.
sure about that. But I would assume they did.
Okay. Many other counties doing it across the state, or is it
There's
just
about a half a dozen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Senator Nicola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would agree with the senator from the first, right? From the first. Senator with the first, because there is a major concern with corporate hedge funds buying up properties, especially in my district, some of these urban centers, that we definitely want to limit or even stop altogether. But that's one of them. But as I'm reading the bill, line 8 through 11, excuse me, on page 1,
Yeah.
there's subject to sales taxes in here 2 different times. And I'll just go to line 10, 11, and 12 where you have it changed.
Yeah.
So a single-family home leased for a term of less than 30 consecutive days, in whole or in part, subject to sales tax under 144.020. So, and I want to thank you too for this bill, because this is a big problem in my district. Our assessor is also changing classifications on people. So thank you for that. But I am just a little concerned with the sales tax part. So let's say I own a home and I rent it out for 2 weeks. Am I subject to sales tax? Do I have to pay sales tax? Is that a normal? I see some head shaking yes in the.
I
out
would
there.
assume so. I have. If I can find
I guess I'm concerned a little bit that if we are subject to charging sales tax and we're a residential home, what kind of slippery slope are we into being classified eventually as a corporation or a business
Say
and not
that
a
again?
residential home? Well, if you're charged sales tax,
Right.
is it really a residential home anymore? Because businesses charge sales tax, corporations have to charge sales tax. So it says if we're subject to sales tax, we shall be classified only as a residential property. I guess I'm just a little confused by that. And maybe I just don't understand the current law on it.
Well, and again, maybe some folks coming up behind me can give a better explanation, but as far as your county assessing the property, that property in and of itself is a residential home in a residential zoned area.
No, I got that, and that's perfect. I like that protection in this bill. It's just the sales tax, being subject to sales tax part of it, and it's in here twice. It looks a little redundant as well.
Yeah.
Because it's quoting the same exact statute. Would there be a problem of taking that out where you added it, the subject to sales tax, since it's already in there?
Well, I'm open to listen to anything.
Okay, great. I appreciate it, Representative. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. How many people do we have testifying in favor? None? Well, let me get a count. Okay, because I'm deciding whether to limit time or not. Oh, that's not too bad. How many people against? Opposed? All right. Let's get the first person in favor. Please come forward. State your name. Looks like you have your form. Is that correct? Please lay that down. Begin when you're ready.
Hey, sir. My name is Baxter Coble. I am a disabled veteran, wounded warrior, and my body isn't what it used to be. My friends and family, they can tell you that I only have so many steps per day. Working a job on my feet all day is definitely just not an option. That's why this Airbnb thing and VRBO, it's where it's at for me. I can limit my amount of steps. The VA helps me, but it's not enough to live off of, and that's why this short-term rental really helps me get through and make ends meet. Most of the short-term rental margins are pretty thin. You're not, due to like insurance costs and increased cost over the last couple of years, you're not making a lot of money on this. It's more of just a little bit more to get by. A lot of these fail to start up as well, just because of those extra costs that you don't foresee when you're taking account of all this stuff. Taxing it at a higher rate, it's going to be devastating to my family, all the families back there as well. I know that myself and several other people that I help out with this, we won't be able to pay that. So you'll end up getting a one-time payment of that higher tax rate, and then we'll be shutting down, and the state won't receive any more money. This will affect the economy. We won't be contributing to the economy anymore there. You'll just be affecting the households that rely on this little bit of extra income to get by the end of the year. It helps no one, so I can ask you today basically to put a stop to this and stop the higher tax assessment on these mom and pop rentals and pass a bill protecting the people that you voted for or that voted for you. Protect their properties, freedom, and lives. I have a couple answers for the questions. It is residential insurance for these homes. Also, not passing this bill means that corporations are going to be the only ones who can afford this. I won't be able to afford it anymore. The corporations have more than enough money to make those razor-thin margins work for them, but I don't. I think that was mainly it, yeah. When's the last time you went to a bed and breakfast run by a corporation, by the way? Anything? No?
I've not went to one ever.
Yeah,
So-
you can't do it. The day-to-day operations, they're
The bed and breakfast is
you have to
the
be
black
there.
family bed and breakfast.
You have to be in the area to run it. The people that are paying for stuff, they tend to just not make it. These are people that own the houses and living in it or living nearby, close enough. Again, you said a lot of the vacation rentals end up becoming retirement homes. There's actually several people right around our house that are all retired to these homes. So it's a very common thing to do. So yeah, I think that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Next person in favor of this legislation, HB 1086.
Hello, my name is Laura Williams, and I'm here from Kansas City, Missouri. I actually had something prepared, but then you guys had some things that I wanted to take my time to address. Somebody had a question about the insurance. I don't have commercial insurance. I have the same kind of policy, like a landlord policy on my places. I also wanted to point out that the average short-term rental owner is like 1.2. Like, we're not like hedge funds coming in buying up 100. It's impossible to run an Airbnb and have like 100 of them. There's just way too many details. There's way too many things that go into it that we have to keep it up. The other thing is that we are not commercial, okay? Like, my short-term rental, I don't have a hair salon. I don't have a spa. If you know anything about the hotel industry, about 30% of their income comes from food and beverage. So they could just rent a place at cost just to get somebody in there for the food and beverage. A lot of hotels have casinos attached. They have little shops that they can make money. I can't rent out my short-term rental by the hour. I can't have like a little pooch and, bring your pooch and get a cocktail in my backyard. So we are operating on very thin margins. And in Kansas City, Missouri, our sales tax, we had by the way, we do pay sales tax, and we're not disputing that at all. We're fine and happy to pay the sales tax. Kansas City, Missouri passed a short-term rental tax that was about 7.5% of our gross. And in the past few months, because of that tax, our licenses have gone down from 7 to 560 because of the extra tax. There is not enough meat on the bone to support doubling and tripling our taxes. We have mortgages to pay. We have a lot of upkeep, to give the guest a nice experience. We have to keep the lawns mowed, and it's just a lot of upkeep. Most of us do it for love. So it's 1.2. We're not corporations, and I will tell you in answer to your question about the LLCs, if you or any of you or any of us buy a property as a rental, even a long-term rental, your tax or your lawyer, your accountant will tell you to put that in an LLC. That does not make you a corporation. It makes you a single person buying in an LLC, and you do that for protection, for liability protection. Even if you buy a long-term rental, if somebody slips on a banana peel in front of your house, you want to be protected. So this does not make us the Marriott because we have one VRBO. And it's really not fair. I mean, like I said, I have no other way but to rent my house to make money. If I'm a hotel, I can rent parking, I can rent spaces, I can have conventions, I can have room service, I can have all of that stuff to help make the extra income. Most of us are just individual people that want to keep a family home, that want to make a little bit of extra money. Like, nobody here is a millionaire that I know of. So we're just asking for fair protection. And another thing that I want to point out is the bed and breakfasts throughout the state of Missouri have this protection. Okay, they have a law to protect them. The bed and breakfasts do not get taxed as commercial. We're just asking for the same thing. We want it to be fair.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Please come forward. Witness, yes, I see that. Thank you, ma'am. Leave it laying there. Begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is June Schmitz. My husband and I own and operate a small family business in Missouri. We were born and raised in Missouri. We have 6 children, 16 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. My husband is now retired, and I have chosen to continue with our small business even though I've reached retirement age. We have built a few family vacation homes in the Branson area for large families like ours to gather to create lasting memories. This has been our life dream. We believe in building strong families and want to see them have places to come together. We host a lot of family reunions with 3 to 4 generations being brought together under one roof for a few days or a week. This small business we have created is our livelihood. It's our retirement and hopefully something we can pass to our children and grandchildren. We run our business with integrity, and we want to pay taxes we justly owe, but not taxes that are unjustly inflated and unfair. When the county assessor arbitrarily decided to change our property classification to commercial, our taxes drastically went up. Our property taxes nearly doubled from $8,000 to $15,000 on one property. Another property nearly tripled. Our livelihood, our retirement that we've been building for 26 years is being erased because the county assessor, making their own decision in Tanner County, is greedily raising taxes. These are residential homes that families live in for short periods of time. We are LLC because we need that liability protection. We are family-owned. They are not commercial property and will never be able to be commercial. If my vacation rental burns down, it cannot be rebuilt as a coffee shop. It won't be rebuilt as an automotive repair shop. It is residential. HB 1086 is a straightforward solution to an urgent problem.
Are there any questions of this witness? Senator Berger.
Thank you for testifying. You said you are in Taney County?
Yes.
Did you contest this with Board of Equalization when it comes?
Yes.
And what was the outcome of that?
We lost.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else testify in favor, please come forward. You have your witness form, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Susan Brown. I'm from Dearborn, Missouri, north of Kansas City. And I am just here to let you all go. These are the testimonies of everybody else in this room. We didn't want to keep you here all day. There's a lot of similar stories, and no, we're not big corporations. Big corporations do long-term rentals. You can just set it and forget it. You cannot do that with a short-term rental. You have to care for these properties. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for letting us speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else testify in favor? Going. Gone. Anyone testify in opposition? Please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jorgen Schlein on behalf of the Missouri Hotel and Lodging Association. So a couple things I wanted to point out. First of all, I've heard today that these properties are not commercial properties. They're not residential properties either. If you think about transactions that are going on inside of these structures, and first of all, let me just say, for those folks that own a home and live in that home and rent part of that home out, I'm good. We're good. We have no beef with that person. For the person who owns another home and uses it at the lake on the weekends, but wants to supplement their income every now and then, you know what? We're probably good there too, right? But for the person who for the owner that never stays the night in that home, and 100% of the activity that goes on in that home is subject to sales tax, that is a commercial operation. If you are collecting sales tax on 100% of the activity that goes on in that residential structure, that is commercial activity, and they should be taxed as such. Hotels, and we heard, hey, they have restaurants and they have this and that and so forth. I kind of jokingly said at one point, I was like, if you want to make all the hotel rooms, not their restaurants or their spas or anything else, but just their rooms, if you want to make those residential assessed property, I suspect we could probably make a deal pretty quick on this bill, right? But I suspect nobody on this committee thinks that that's the case. Now, as far as long-term rental, what's the difference between long-term rental and short-term rental? Long-term rental, the person that's in that long-term rental, that's their address. You say, hey, mail me something, that's the address they're putting down. They're paying property tax, personal property tax, in that community. Their kids are going to school in that community. That is where they live. That is their primary residence. That's a big difference than a residential looking structure where sometimes you have 2 or 3 families going in there for a week and paying sales tax on their stay. And that is what's conducted 90, 95, sometimes 100% of the time. I also agree with Senator Beck, Senator from the 1st and also from the Senator from the 11th, that you have a lot of hedge funds now that are buying these homes. No doubt. Why would you not want to be able to put each one of them under an LLC? And I would bet you, for those who put these under an LLC, they are depreciating them under the corporation's rules for taxes, right? But then want to pay property tax under the residential rate. Those two don't quite match up. If it's residential, don't depreciate it, right? If it's truly being used for residential purposes, and I suspect most of them are depreciating those on probably a 27-year schedule. The issue is that large hedge funds are absolutely gobbling these up, and they are using them as a business. They are using them as a business. The owner never, ever stays in that home, and that is a commercial activity, and it certainly is not a residential activity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions of this witness? Seeing none. Thank you. Anyone else to testify in opposition of 1086? Anyone for informational purposes only? Yes, sir. Have you submitted a witness form? If not, you see a blank one there. Please do that, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
State your
I do see
name
it.
and begin.
I'll fill it out. My name is Ryan Valines. I'm out of Warsaw, but I'm actually an active duty military member at Knob Nosser at Whiteman Air Force Base. I just thought I'd come up here to just fix a few misnomers that I think I heard. And honestly, Senator, I'm sorry, I forget your name, but that was a good, I really affiliate, and I could believe that. That argument that you want to raise, and I do think there is some validity to that, but I think when you really dive into the facts of this issue, that just isn't quite the argument to be made. So I'm not on either side, but I want to spell out a few things, especially that the opponent that just left, that was a blatant lie about folks.
Just go ahead and give us informational purposes only.
Yes,
and don't worry about supporting one group and
so
anti
for informational
group,
purposes, property tax, I would just say that, we're here to discuss property tax, not income taxation. From what I read about this bill, it looks like it's heavily focused on property tax alone. So it's just my reminder on that. It also looks like the changes being made are arbitrary. It doesn't look like there's anything really that allows for reclassification of properties from residential. If you look at IRS publication, I believe it's 467, I know we're not talking federal government here, but I do think it's a good guideline to know that the IRS classifies every single one of these properties that are in discussion, whether they're owned by a corporation or not. They're classified as residential rental property is the term, and that's a very specific, very narrow term on purpose. And in America, in today's world, with corporations, I think the fear of large corporate ownership is just not true. I have some statistics about Missouri, and I see that Missouri average owner on these Airbnbs and such makes about $10,000 a year. It looks like the direct benefit to the state of Missouri is about $250 million a year in tax income. It looks like there's about $1 billion of economic impact to the state of Missouri. So I would just keep all those figures in mind. As far as depreciation, I also am kind of like a tax extraordinaire. So residential depreciation, people are, I believe, claiming on some of these properties, but it falls under the residential rental property provision of the IRS. Same as when you talk about, you guys mentioned insurance earlier, and I believe for insurance, residential rental property is the term that they use as well. There is no such thing really that applies to these as like a commercial policy or a purely residential policy. There is a blend and in between, and so that I think is important to remember, that residential rental property is classified based on the activity occurring at the property, not the use. So if it's used to generate income, it doesn't really matter, right? It's the activities that occur at a property that determine the property tax. The income tax and all applicable taxes, I would assume that any corporation owning is paying their fair share, and I would assume that any individual owner is paying their fair share. If there is a problem with corporate ownership, from the data that I've seen in the state of Missouri, I don't think that's true. I don't think there is like a BlackRock or anything like that. So I think to have a mindful awareness of that is good, but to think that it's a problem is not good, and I think that might be putting the cart before the horse. So I think some of these things you gotta see how they play out. And then to finish up what I was going to tell you guys, just as an observer, I really think we got to get back to the point here is that there's a loophole that exists right now, that these properties are currently classified as residential, and you're talking about assessors reclassifying. You're not talking about properties that are commercial asking for reclassification into residential. You're talking about properties that are residential already.
Any questions of this witness? Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else, informational purposes only?
I didn't plan to speak, and I didn't fill out a form, but I will.
Okay, yeah. There should be a blank one there for you to fill out, correct? And I need you, please state your name and begin.
My name is Karen Cook, and I just want to say, when the hotel fellow came, you really can't compare a house where one person has to come out and mow that little yard. Everything is like, everything you have to do on a hotel that you can share between 30 or 100 rooms are all exponential, or what's the word, bigger when you bring it down to one unit. Like all of our expenses on a single unit cost us more because we're not sharing it with a bunch of little rooms. Even the cost, let's say the cheapest house you can practically find anymore is $250,000 or more. And you think of these little rooms that to a hotel, they're not spending $250,000 for each room. You know, however, our expenses are so much greater because we have to spend so much more. We have the same grass, the same yard, maybe if someone owns a pool, and all that maintenance is concentrated into one guest experience.
Okay,
rather
thank
than
you.
100.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. Please just lay that back on the table whenever you're done. Information? Information? All right, we'll try it. I hate to be that way, but we need to get...
No, I'll keep it short. My name's Christy Post, and I'm from DeKalb County. My houses went from last year agriculture to commercial, and I didn't even know about it until August when I got the letter. When I went to my assessor's office and asked them why, they said because they were allowed to. But my biggest peeve is I was the only Airbnb in my area that I know of that got changed from agriculture or residential to commercial.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Which county did you say?
DeKalb.
Okay, thank you. Was there another informational person, right? It kind of, it's almost like I'm back in the classroom. Everybody don't understand terminology very well. Excuse me, I shouldn't be on a microphone. Please begin.
Is this what I need to fill out? Okay.
And it's 1086 is what you're talking about when you fill that out.
Thank you. I'm Stacy Lamb. I'm actually from Arkansas. I have no interest in Missouri other than I like Missouri. I live in Northwest Arkansas, and I'm a short-term rental consultant. I had no intentions of speaking at all today. I would just wanted to attend their little day here and see what was going on, but I just wanted to give you a couple of facts that I know to be true, just because you guys have asked some really good questions, and I've spoken to a lot of committees, a lot of cities that tend to have these questions and kind of have misinformation. So one of them is, and I think this is really an important figure, your average short-term rental owner across your state is grossing $10,000 a year. They're grossing $10,000 a year. That figure is obviously very low compared to like some of us that are more professional property owners. Maybe we have multiple homes, but that $10,000 figure is very average across your state. Over 80% of your short-term rental property owners only own one property. So the concern about the mega corporations usually isn't found to be true. That's the same for the state of Arkansas for myself. 20% of your property owners are over 60 years old, so many of them are using this to supplement retirement. Spouses have died, that kind of thing. Over 60% of your short-term rental owners are women. And over 20% of the stays that Airbnb has in your state are actually 30-plus days long, which by your state law is a long-term rental. So these are people not necessarily coming on vacation. They're coming to plan because mom has died. They're doing estates. They're coming for jobs and work. And so I just wanted to give you some of those facts and figures that I know are absolutely true for your state, especially the one about the mega corporations. I know this is always a concern for everybody. We don't want those people coming in, taking our homes, messing up our communities and our neighborhoods. But truly, over 80% of your short-term rental owners in your state, they own one property, so they are certainly not mega corporations, even though they may have the tax structure of an LLC. So,
Any questions? Thank you very much. Just lay that form in when you leave. We done with the information? Thank you very much. Thank you, Representative Brown. We'll go on to our next item on the list, which is House Bill 352, Representative McGaugh. He's going to be the one to be a lot of people on yours. Thank you all for being here.
Yes, I sure know how to clear a room, don't I? Thank you so much for hearing my bill, committee, and chairman. I am Representative Peggy McGaugh. I represent the 7th District of Missouri, and that includes Livingston, Carroll, Lynn, and a portion of Ray counties. My House Bill 352 has been heard since I arrived in this building, so those of you, my colleagues that I served in the House with, you will remember this. Those of you that moved from the House, you remember testifying for this on my behalf before, and so here it is again. It feels like Groundhog Day. So currently, counties of the first class without a charter form of government are required to prepare a financial statement and publish it in a qualified newspaper for the previous year by the first Monday in March. This bill could be called an efficiency, fairness, and a cost savings bill because we would like to change that to include second, and third and fourth class counties so that we can have them prepare this shorter version like the first class counties do, and we will change the date to June 30th so that it is a more complete statement. I worked diligently with the Missouri Press Association for the public's right to know. This information will still be gathered by those that do this publication. The Press Association assures me that they will not overcharge for this, even though that it will be a shorter version. The county clerk or the other officers responsible will be able to provide the Press Association with a disc or another form of electronic data. We will have that available. There's also a part of this bill that talks about outstanding fines, and you probably remember the version of a similar bill that you've heard on the Senate side that talks about a one-time downward adjustment, and this is very important for the small counties, small cities, small jurisdictions that have, for no reason of their own, they've gotten behind in some of their delinquent payments, and this would help them out because we have found that some of those small districts owe some penalties that cost more than the dollar amounts that they bring in a one-year period of time. So again, this is a efficiency, fairness, and a cost savings bill to the counties. And with that, I take any questions.
Any questions of the representative? Thank you very much. Is there anyone testifying in favor? Please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Doug Cruz with the Missouri Press Association, and I submitted my witness form yesterday. Missouri Press Association supports this bill. It's an identical bill to Senator Crawford's bill that you passed a few weeks ago, I believe, Senate Bill 2. We've testified on this in favor of it since 2019, I believe, and this bill was passed in 2022, but it was an omnibus bill that was thrown out by the Supreme Court, and so it was in effect for 1 year. Just want to let you know we're in support of the bill, and we appreciate Representative McGaugh for bringing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else testify in favor, please come forward. State your name, got the form. Thank you.
Jimmy Laughlin, Chairman and Senators. Again, Camden County Auditors and Missouri Association of County Auditors. And we're in favor of this bill. As he indicated, it is in mirror of SB2 that Senator Crawford had. And as Senator Berger and Bratton would know, we're in favor of it for the reason of changing the date, because for those municipalities, whether county or city, if they're on an accrual basis, for counties, the collector doesn't close out until mid-March. We're just now getting that. So to prove a true picture, it will not be disclosed at the 1st of March. So we want that later date, which also matches when bonds are out and everything else. So it'll be a even shift disclosure. So.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Thank you very much. One else in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Chris Schroer here on behalf of the Missouri Association of County Clerks and Election Authorities. Senator Crawford's bill has already passed this committee as well as the Senate floor. Be happy to answer any questions and garner your support for this bill.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Richard Sheets with Missouri Municipal League, and we're supportive of House Bill 352. It's both very important, the dates, and also the forgiving of some of those fines for financial statements, because some cities have really got over their head because of some employees that weren't doing their jobs, and this really will solve that problem, and I appreciate this bill. I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Pat Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Municipal League of Metro St. Louis. Just want to go on record in support of House Bill 352. We have a community, as an example, in our St. Louis County that the city clerk was arrested after defrauding the city for over $200,000. She went to jail. At the same time, the mayor passed away. This disclosure was failed to be reported for 2 years, and now the city's being penalized at a fine of over $100,000. So they're paying twice for what ultimately was somebody stealing from the city, and this would give the ability to waive that fine for that first time and bring the city back and make it whole. So appreciate your support, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the witness? Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Informational purposes only. Thank you very much, Representative, for bringing House Bill 352 forward. Now we're ready to go to Senate Bill 280. Senator Carter.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I appreciate the opportunity to bring Senate Bill 280 to your committee. Bill 280 provides means to comply with current law, which mandates all driver's license applicants be provided a voter registration form. Senate Bill 280 helps to ensure voter rolls remain clean by including a cross-reference with Missouri DOR to determine each applicant's processes of necessary proof of citizenship to register to vote. So currently, this is a bill that some of the clerks brought to me when I was at a conference. They were talking about there's really no cross-referencing when they go to get a driver's license. They're automatically enrolled to register to vote. This would include a little button and a cross-referencing between the Department of Revenue to ensure that they are showing proof of citizenship as well. So, any questions?
Any questions? Senator Beck.
So, yeah, help me understand. So the clerks brought this to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at the first part of the paragraph, it says you have to present a certificate with you, a birth certificate, in the previous law?
Well, they're just, what's happening is there's no, in the technology, there's nothing cross-referencing between the DOR and the clerks to show that that verification has happened. So even though nothing's changing, they're just using technology to ensure that the clerks know that they have showed that proof of citizenship.
Okay. So all this time okay, all right.
I mean, there's a picture, you can see what they have now and how it will help them verify, the clerks verify the voter rolls.
Okay, any other questions to the senator? Senator Nuremberg.
Hi, Senator. So, yeah, and I guess that I'm glad that the senator asked that, because I was looking at the previous statute, and I just didn't understand why the additional step, since already, that copy of the birth certificate or proof of United States citizenship is required already in current statute. So what you're saying is the form essentially would be updated?
Correct, for the clerks. So it cross-references and shows. So there's synchronicity between the Department of Revenue and the clerks so that they see that verification did take place. Right now, there's really nothing, and so.
Okay, and is this, like you say, you're showing a form, and I can't quite see that, so it'd be great
Sure,
to see that
yeah.
in a little bit closer, but it's essentially, is this all done electronically right now?
Yes.
So this would just be like an additional button they would push to
Correct,
verify?
correct.
Okay, so we're not
changing anything statutorily. We're just ensuring that is synchronizing and that there is verification of that ID.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Beck.
So, yeah, I was just curious why we have to do this statutorily, because it seems like they could just put a button in there to cross-reference it, that it could be done through procedures, that it's not, it already satisfies the statute. That's why I'm kind of confused why they need us to do this.
Yeah, no, and Senator, I'm happy to have, I think we have people here to testify as to why that hasn't happened, and maybe it's just the clerks and the Department of Revenue need to get together to make it a priority.
Well, I'll yell at him when he gets up here. Thanks.
All right. Anyone testify in favor? Please come forward if we have anybody.
Chris Ropey, again, here on behalf of the Missouri Association and County Clerks and Election Authorities. Senator did come and speak with us at our conference this past fall, and I know some of the LEAs that were there, had a conversation with her, and we are very appreciative of this effort. Right now, there is a ability to verify the Social Security number and the driver's license. What we are asking for, and I think we probably need to work on the language. I know some of your local clerks, I think Charlie reached out probably to tweak this, because you might run into a situation where, what if we don't know one way or the other? What do you do with those potential voters if they are a U.S. citizen or not? Because we all want to make sure the voter rolls are updated and that somebody's not voting who shouldn't be. It's just the best way to do it. So we definitely appreciate the intent to give us the ability to communicate with Department of Revenue, which doesn't, the way I understand it, isn't a seamless process right now. And adding that, what is, that third button, so to speak, with the Social Security numbers and driver's license will help with that. The clerks never want to be put in the position as the bad guy who has to turn people away because of the laws as they stand, and so this would help make sure that everybody's got skin in the game on how we verify this, and to make sure we have the best information possible to ensure that that happens. And I don't know near enough about this, and I'm happy to get Eric Fay or somebody from St. Louis County for you, Senator Beck, or some of your folks up in Clay County to help talk about how this works in reality day to day. And sorry we couldn't get someone smarter than me here today.
Any questions of this witness is not as smart today as he will be tomorrow?
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
So, and my question is, I just don't understand why this couldn't be done, with procedurally and instead of coming, because it's already taking place in the statute. If you read it, that if you register to vote, you have to have your birth certificate or your proof of citizenship or whatever the case may be. Why can't that just happen? That's crazy to me that we.
I will get you an answer.
And the wording on this bill, I think, says something different. It kind of restates a lot of the different things that are already in there. If it's just a form, why can't we just say that they need to communicate this information of the rest of subsection 7 to the local clerks?
And if that's a part of the solution for this issue, so again, the LEAs kind of get removed from the referee, so to speak, to make sure that it's on everybody to have skin in the game and to ensure that that happens. I will get you an answer, or I'll maybe have Eric reach out to you. He can.
I know Eric really well, so
Yeah.
he's a constituent of mine.
He's
so-
probably listening right now.
Yeah, he probably is. He'll probably be texting me at some point. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone testify in opposition? Anyone testify in opposition? Anyone testify for informational purposes only? I wondered which area you were going to be in. Please come forward, state your name. We'll begin.
Chairman, members of the committee, Amanda Bell with Secretary of State's office. We are here for informational purposes only. Kind of the way I understand this, mind you, is that basically we are codifying in law what DOR actually has to send us, including the mark that there is proof of citizenship. Right now, we may not get all that information. We've also had issues with some of the licensing departments, and I don't have proof of this, but this is what I've been told, is that sometimes individuals that may have communication disabilities, even, be it a language barrier or something like that, they go in there to get a driver's license. They may be working with some teenager working part-time, and those individuals, they're just filling out anything that's handed to them, not asking questions. And that teenager may skip that part where they're not asking for proof of citizenship. So here these people are registered to vote. We don't have that proof on file. That's just one of the circumstances where we have found this. Now requiring them to actually verify, yes, we have seen this proof of citizenship. Go ahead and mark that box. Now we have that documented that actually occurred. So whenever we compare that, we just know that is happening. Now, one of the things we are doing, we're already working with DOR to kind of improve the information that they're sending to us to update voter rolls and increasing the amount of information that they're sending to us, so we're doing it accurately. And I can keep you guys posted as those conversations go on.
Any questions of the witness? Thank you very much. Anyone else? Informational purposes only. Seeing none. Senator Carter, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I move we adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.